Da, 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 da. What's up, folks? It's your boy MMG Smurf here, and today we're going to be talking about Janet Yellen and her upcoming speech, inflation, stablecoins, and those darn tootin' NFTs, and who's making them next. So I got quite a few articles linked up and ready to go. Wanted to dive into these, and this is just kind of a segment that I wanted to start doing to talk more about just what's happening overall in the cryptocurrency industry and as far as regulation and things like that. So it's my first shot at it. Hopefully you guys enjoy this segment. Let's jump into it. All right. Oops. Got a fade to black there. First up on the list is food giants KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut file NFTs in the metaverse trademark. So these are all actually underneath the same same brand. Following the footsteps of the fast food chain competitor McDonald's decision to explore metaverse, Yum Brands. So Yum Brands is the brand that has actually Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and Kentucky Fried Chicken. Has submitted multiple trademark applications for non-fungible tokens. So what that means, NFTs and metaverse products and services. So NFTs and metaverse products and services. They're really planning to expand to the metaverse, and they want to make sure that they get their money right and they get all their branding down. So according to the metaverse trademark attorney, Michael Konditis, who tweeted on March 20th, the applications were filed with the United States Patent and Trademark Office on March 25th, 2022. Wait, what? I guess. Okay. He tweeted on the 20th, but they were filed on the 20th. Okay. Signaling plans to expand these brands into NFTs and virtual products and services. See, it's like, yeah, then this says the tweet is on the 30th. So I think they had that off. I think this is meant to be the 30th. So I'm just like a little research here while we're doing this, including virtual food and beverage products, retail services, and online virtual restaurants. So going to this tweet that Michael Konditis tweeted on the 30th of March, it looks like, not the 20th, as they had a little typo up above. What are some of these patents and trademarks? Virtual foods and drinks, NFTs and NFT-backed multimedia. So videos and GIFs and whatever the heck. Online stores featuring virtual goods, virtual restaurants, and actual and virtual goods. Which is funny, the virtual restaurants thing. So I was just talking to Sean Porter, one of the podcasts that they do for NFT Throwdown. And he was mentioning to his children, I think his son specifically, they're like, you think it's cool now that you get to go onto these video games and stop in a store and do whatever you want in the video game. But what about when you stop in that store in the video game and then you can order yourself an in real life pizza or whatever food, have it sent to your actual address? And like that's coming, and I think that's part of what they're doing here. Don't quote me on that. They could just be like, oh, you buy some digital items because there's use for it in the metaverse as well. But I think it's going to be a different way for them to actually do delivery services or food ordering services the same way that I believe it was Apple. I can't remember if it was Apple or Amazon. It might have been Amazon. One of them had patented the one-click service or one-click shopping. And so it's like you push one. I think it was Apple. You do like one click and it covers all your shopping and stuff like that. And it's like a easy checkout system. But one of them had patented that early on. So Michael Konditis also stated, quoted saying, clearly Yum Brands sees potential of the metaverse in preparing its trademarks and brands for the virtual economy that will dominate. That's the guy who's doing trademarks and stuff like that in the United States. So it's a pretty serious statement, in my opinion. Let me get rid of that. Oops. Fast food enters the metaverse. This section down here. It's worth noting that Inspire Brands, Inc., owner of Arby's, Baskin-Robbins, Buffalo Wild Wings, Jimmy John's, and Sonic trademarks, has recently submitted a number of trademark applications as well. So they're not alone. And again, this is on the back heels of McDonald's doing this. So you got 3 of these major brands doing this. Meanwhile, just last week, Mark Zuckerberg's Meta, on the NASDAQ as FB, formerly known as Facebook, announced it intends to expand into the metaverse, making steps toward introducing virtual services and crypto trading. So that's their expansion in the metaverse. Now, we all know that they're entering the metaverse, but they want to expand. But Meta is just one of the slew of organizations, brand celebrities, and even sports teams who are taking on interest in the metaverse. And when they say sports teams, one that I know for sure that's taking on interest in the metaverse is the Dallas Mavericks. I'm not sure about a whole bunch of other ones. I think the Sacramento Kings have been in cryptocurrency for a while and interested in different aspects, but I don't know how far they're traveled into that. But recently, about a month or so ago, I was watching a clip specifically from Mark Cuban where he was saying that the Mavericks in this upcoming season would actually be introducing NFTs as memorabilia and tickets for their events. And so with the NFTs, you also have the ability, sometimes people like nag on it, that they have the ability to change the image and stuff like that, wherever that's being hosted. But that's also can be like a good thing. If you bought a ticket and at the beginning of the event the ticket looks like one thing, and it's it's a receipt that says yes you did have access to this. You can't change the metadata, like, so the information on that, but after the event you can actually change the image on it. And so whether that's by allowing the user to do so or by doing it themselves on the back end, that they could actually change that image. That's actually pretty powerful, because then you can do things like highlight certain plays and stuff like that within the event on that ticket. It's pretty amazing. All right, next up we have the UK Treasury. So UK Treasury outlines plan to regulate stablecoins and issue an NFT. Yes, that's coming from the United Kingdom Treasury. UK Treasury made moves for stablecoins to be bought with regulation, paving their way for the use in UK as recognized form of payment. It also said the UK's Royal Mint would use an NFT in the summer. So the Royal Mint of the UK, this is as official as it's going to get from any type of regulatory body, is creating an NFT this summer. So what will they use that for? We don't know yet, but later on you'll find out that they promised that it's coming out this summer. Treasury said in a press release they could provide a more efficient means of payment and widen consumer choice. So that's speaking about these stable coins. We want to see businesses of tomorrow and the jobs they create here in the UK, and by regulating effectively, we can give them the confidence they need to think and invest long term, Sunak said. And so, this is Rishi Sunak, who's the UK's chancellor, and I totally agree with them, because that's all we want in the crypto industry is like some people were like really against regulation and stuff like that because they want their stuff to stay hidden. But for this to advance and for it to be like really hit mainstream and adopt to a global standard, we need regulation. And people are dragging their heels on it, trying to make sure that the fiat system survives, and that's just not going to happen. Like, look what quantitative easing is done. Look at what the situation we're in after a short span with this virus and stuff. What about if something else happens? It's going to tank that much worse. And this isn't the first time that we've seen this. Like, this is the first time a lot of these Western countries have been hit like this hard in the last 100 years. But they've been hit like this before, and we've seen it happen throughout the last few hundred years from sanctions that Western countries slap on countries like Venezuela and Cuba and anywhere else in the world. It's just not the first time. Usually they're just bullying other countries. I'm part of a Western country, but usually they just bully the other countries into doing what they want. But now it's the shoes on the other foot, and we actually need a way out of this. We need, a robust economy truly has more than one option and is not relying on just fiat alone. We used to rely on gold, but that's not the case anymore. So what do we do? The petrodollar has seen its last day, in my opinion. Okay, so Sunak also put in a request the Royal Mint for its issue an NFT. The Royal Mint is a governing-owned mint that produces coins for the United Kingdom. So the body that produces coins is also going to be making their own NFT. Treasury said the move highlights, and this is like the United States Mint, Treasury said the move highlights the forward-looking approach we are determined to take towards crypto assets in the UK. The tweet also said it would be issued by the summer, so this is just reflective of the NFT status and the stablecoin. So that NFT will be issued by this summer. So this move comes amid a protracted period of confusion around crypto regulation in the UK, as firms have waited for verdicts from financial regulators on anti-money laundering licensing. And so, again, most regulators took their first approach toward cryptocurrency and NFTs, honestly, as, it's used for money laundering and this and that, and it's used for criminal activity, etc. Well, there was just a study done all of a month or two ago now from, I forgot, one of the United States bodies of governance, and they actually found that the United States dollar is still used more for criminal activity by a large margin than anything else. And like I was also watching a more comedic thing. It was Alexander Hamilton versus Satoshi. You can Google that, which is a really funny rap battle. But in that, they mentioned something else that a lot of people know, which is that most United States dollars have traces of cocaine on them. you have a currency that you would spread out to the world with traces of cocaine on it versus a digital currency. Like, you know, it's just not even comparable. Like, you're going to try to like argue that something else is being used for bad practices. Like, you know, that's throwing stones. It's really throwing stones. But that wraps up this article. Something to look out for. Doesn't get any more official than this. The UK Treasury and the Royal Mint actually stepping into the crypto and NFT game, and they want the UK to be a hub for cryptocurrency assets, digital assets. Wild. All right, next one, I want to move on to the United States side of things with the U.S. Treasury, Janet Yellen. So Janet Yellen is the U.S. Treasury Secretary, and Yellen is to deliver her first speech on cryptocurrency in the U.S. economy. So this comes after Biden, of course, made that executive order forcing these United States branches to do more research and look more into cryptocurrency and how, you know, just learn more about it, because people were dragging their feet and just holding their own opinions without doing that research truly. And so they had to learn more, because part of that executive order was that they had to educate the public about the risk associated with cryptocurrency. And so after doing so, a lot of people noticed that Janet Yellen actually switched up her tune in the last month. She actually switched that sweet, sweet tune. She did. And a lot of us love to see it, because her statements prior just weren't really, it's not really true. And Elizabeth Warren is still holding on to her stance, but you know, that is what it is. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is about to tell cryptocurrency industry what she thinks of it in her first speech on the focus on digital assets. And this is why I titled this video that markets will move in the thumbnail, because usually when something like this happens, markets do move. They move prior to it and they move afterwards. So that might be the reason why we're seeing a little bit of sink in the market today, out of some fear for that. Who knows though? I'd have to do more research into why the markets are actually moving today in the negative direction that they are. Yellen will outline how the Department of Treasury views cryptocurrencies as an emerging part of the economy during a Thursday event at United States University, at the American University. So this is a 10:30 a.m. Meeting. This meeting will cover be specifically toward stablecoins. Yellen's Treasury was instrumental in drafting last year's report from the president's working group of financial markets that marked the United States government opening salvo on establishing rules for dollar-backed stablecoins. So for those that don't know, the United States, as well as many other countries in the world, are working on their own dollar-backed stablecoins, or CBDC, central I forget what it is. It's centrally distributed coins, basically. I forget the exact acronym for it, but they're referred to as CBDCs. Jamaica actually, in the Caribbean, actually launched one recently. They're just not doing too well, but neither do their other currencies that they're trying to back into something of their own. And that's not a shot. That's just like, you know, it's not easy to do. And this is why it's so amazing that Bitcoin and a lot of these currencies have done so well, because, you know, the United States and other entities, other big countries are like, oh, they can't possibly, you know, do this correctly, but they've been performing better than the United States dollar and most other world currencies since their inception, which is just a fact at this point. And they're about 13 years, you know, Bitcoin's a teenager at this point. Most currencies last for about 50 years or so. The United States is, in our last form of currency, is well overdue for that. Well, kinda, actually. So we switched on to our current tax model in 1913. And then, so again, going by that 50-year average, by the 70s, we had to switch out of it, and we got off of the gold standard. And so since the 70s, how long has it been since the 70s on that gold standard, folks? It's been about 50 years. It's been about 50 years since we switched off the gold standard, and we're seeing an issue. And it looks like the currency is going to have to change again. But it really shouldn't be that surprising to people. That average is actually sticking to be true. And you can research this information. And you can go back to the history of the United States dollar. It has not been the dollar that people think it as. People are just ingrained to think of the dollar as a certain concept. But it has not always been backed by how it has been backed. It has not always been the way that people think it is. There's been continental dollars. There's been state dollars, etc. People just don't know that true history. So just saying, you know, do some more research and look out there for it. New rules on the road that govern stablecoin issuers is what we're looking for here. If lawmakers fail to produce results, Securities and Exchange Commissions, the SEC, and Federal Reserve are planning to use another channel, the umbrella group of top regulators known as the Financial Stability Oversight Council. I've actually never heard of that council before, but, you know, I guess it exists, to push for oversight despite limits on the council's powers. So for them to try and push something through. An early crypto skeptic, and this is just about Janet Yellen herself, an early crypto skeptic during her time as Fed chair, Yellen has since struck a more careful tone that acknowledges the industry's financial innovations. So love to hear that, because, yeah, again, a lot of people just kind of come at it and I feel like their initial response is out of fear. Like, oh, we can't have something. We know that's detrimental to the United States dollar being potentially just in control of the world and us being able to sanction countries and topple them from abroad. But it's not to say the United States dollar still doesn't have its place and it isn't still a strong entity, especially if we are at the charge of innovation. But dragging our heels is not going to get it done. And so I feel like these these lawmakers are starting to see that. They're like, okay, actually, what'll keep us, at the forefront of things is being early to the party, not being the last ones. And I was just telling my girlfriend this the other day, but I'm like, yeah, what's funny is the United States usually follows after the United Kingdom in their monetary policy. The United States is usually not the first ones to make their monetary policies. Even our current tax rules were also made with the help of the United Kingdom. So I'm not surprised the UK is like, we're going to become a hub for this. And the United States is like, actually, maybe it's not such a bad thing. Yeah, silly. Stop being followers. Like, it's really sheepish, though, in my opinion. Like, we need to stop being so sheepy like that. But I guess that's where we came from. That's what they look back to. So this article right here. The newly introduced bill aims to bring transparency to the stablecoin market. I'm bringing up all these articles of this type just to push the narrative that something is looming, something is happening. These regulators, these lawmakers are starting to change their minds, or at least open their eyes, actually become what woke actually is supposed to mean, just like understanding the true narrative, not over emotional, but opening their eyes and becoming woke to the fact that something is stewing. It's not working. The rat race that you performed for so long is not where people are waking up to that idea, and you need to do something, because whether or not it's happening, whether you can't do anything about it, either people are going to hide their stuff from you, or you're going to step it up, make some regulation, and make it harder for them to want to hide that stuff when it comes through. And so they're actually waking up to this. So the days of murky stablecoin reserves might soon be over. 2 U.S. lawmakers, Representative Trey Hollingsworth, Republican Indiana, and Senator Bill Hagerty, Republican Tennessee, introduced a bill in both the House and the Senate on Thursday aimed at bringing greater transparency to the stablecoin market. This is named the Stablecoin Transparency Act. If passed, the bill would have significant impact on stablecoin issuers like Circle and Tether, just to name a few. There's also USDC. There's also TUSD, so Terra-backed stablecoins, and Terra just bought up a whole bunch of Bitcoins. There's actually being backed up by Bitcoin and things of that sort. But let's go forward. Tether, by far the largest stablecoin issuer, and Tether has long had a dirty name in the cryptocurrency community, has been especially secretive about its reserves. This is also a Hong Kong-based one. So it ties to China in some regard. The now $180 billion stablecoin market has also become a concern for regulators. Concerns about potential exposure risks for the broader economy in the event of a run on stablecoin issuers. So this would mean kind of like there was like a run on banks where people go and they request all that money from the banks. In this case, they request all those stablecoins from issuers, or request the payout from all those. And if it doesn't exist, what do you do? So they're, this is the funny part. What they're basically worried about is people going in and being like, yo, we want that money from those stable coins. Where it's at? You know what I'm saying? Just to get a little something with it. And they're worried the stable coin producers would just do the same thing that the United States government does, basically the Fed Reserve. When you have, I just watching this video from Elizabeth Warren being like, well, the United States government promises that that'll be backed. I'm like, well, how have we promised that that'll be backed so far? By leveraging our own, by printing out more. We don't do anything. We're not out there being like, we're going to create more products. And we sold so much more internationally that now we can promise that's back. No, what we've been doing is raising the debt ceiling and printing out more dollars. That's what that means when they say they're raising the debt ceiling. They're going to raise that debt ceiling, the potential debt of the country, and print more because we don't have the money. That's how they promise. But they want to make sure, it's not bad that they want to make sure this happens, but it's so funny that they want to point fingers at other industries more so than figure out their own issues first. But they want to make sure the stablecoin issuers can't do that, which, applaud them for doing so, because this new world order should be that much better, than the previous. We should not continue with these same issues that we had previously. We need to fix things. This bill isn't going to solve everything, Hollingsworth told CoinDesk, but it is an incremental step towards unveiling a balanced approach between development, technology, and protections of consumers, like you forgot to do last time. Hollingsworth believes that the bill, whether it eventually passes or not, will give stablecoin issuers a sneak peek at where Congress is headed with stablecoin regulation. Even presenting this and dropping this to Congress is a signal to industry where we are headed. So it's just the idea, once you start that pushing that ball, once you push the ball, it keeps rolling. Thing called momentum. They can begin to make decisions and move in that same direction. So they have to start thinking about it once it's presented, which is, we also saw this recently where they had a bunch of cryptocurrency heads, come in, and Congress is asking them all these questions. And it became very apparent the United States people that had been making all these negative remarks about cryptocurrency and stablecoins and NFTs had no idea what they actually were. They were asking and I know sometimes you have to play devil's advocate, right? For the room and for yourself. But they honestly most of them were clueless. There was about 6 people in the room that knew what they were talking about. Everybody else was clueless. And that was very apparent. Very apparent. Like, they had not spent more than 6 months looking at the stuff. But they're busy people. But you don't be so negative about something when you're that clueless about it. Otherwise, your fear is obviously showing. Though most stablecoins are pegged to the United States dollar, they're looking to expand that scope. We're working as broadly as possible with the industry and consumers globally to make sure we're coming out with a thoughtful framework. And again, this is that narrative that the United States is trying to take of not just covering the United States, but being the leaders for the global market, which is the right approach to be taking. Again, I applaud them for doing this. That's one of the reasons, frankly, why the bill isn't dollar specific. I don't want to be behind the curve when the bill gets passed and then we have to amend it and reflect the different currencies that people are issuing stablecoins in, he added. Even if the bill is passed, implementation of the new requirements won't be immediate. And this is how you stay in control. If you can actually do things to control all the different issuings of stablecoins and all the different currencies, the ruble, the bolivar, whatever have you, then you stay in control. Not by being way behind the curve in every aspect. Let's go for it. So this is by the central bank, BIS. I believe that's the boss. I don't forget what the BIS stands for exactly. Bank for International Settlements. There we go. New inflationary era upon us. Central bank action will be unpopular, BIS Carlson warns. The return to inflation, and this is the last article that I wanted to cover today. This is not to scare anybody. None of these are to scare anybody. I'm actually happy that they're doing all this regulatory work. Obviously happy about the first two as a cryptocurrency guy, where we're seeing all these bigger brands and stuff like that move into there. Happy that Senator Treasury Secretary Yellen is actually opening her eyes and reading more about cryptocurrency. It's becoming very apparent. And then this one, again, the article is not meant to scare anybody or anything like that when it's talking about inflation. It's just meant to educate people, but also provide a little bit of entertainment in your day. So the return to inflation in the world means that real interest rates need to rise into positive territory, but with historically high levels of debt, such as a move by central banks, will not be popular. And so this basically just means that we are obviously experiencing high inflation, right? Everybody knows we're experiencing high inflation in today's world. But what are we doing about it? Typically, the central banks need to raise interest rates high enough to combat that inflation. But right now, we've moved them we had negative interest rates for a while, and we moved them up like 0.25 or something like that percent. It's just not enough. It's not enough. Not when Congress recently made a move to have their staff salary increased by 20%. Why would you have your staff salary increased by 20% when you said the inflation was only 7%? You've never done that before. Well, why are you trying to protect them so heavily while telling the public something else? Probably because it's a lot higher than that. Probably because it's much higher than that. And so when is the Fed and the World Bank, the central bank, going to start doing something about this to actually combat this stuff? How fearful are they actually? Well, this article starts to give us some insight. Said the world may be on the cusp of a new inflationary order or era. Central bank action was needed in order to deal with the price rises. Most likely, they will require real interest rates to rise above neutral levels for a time in order to moderate demand. This speech was delivered at the International Center of Monetary and Banking Studies in Geneva, Switzerland. So this is not somebody just coming from the United States and speaking to a United States audience about this. No, this has global implications. Think broader than just yourselves in the United States or whatever country you're in listening to this from. Think broader. This is everybody. Inflation is not just hitting you at home in America or you at home in Europe. It's hitting everybody. Think broader than whatever tit-taff your local media has you stuck up on. You know, seriously. Karsten further warned that such a transition would not be easy nor popular. And, you know, Biden also warned people that it would not be easy or popular. But people want to kind of like, you know, certain things the president say, people just want to hardball and be like, everything that person says is now negative. People got that way about Trump where they're like, everything he says is bad. Like, he did okay. He did some things okay. But he ran his mouth way too much and was just a toxic person. Like, just not the type of person most people want to hang out with because he'd be talking behind your back 5 minutes later. And that's just the truth. In many countries, starting conditions complicate matters. Households, firms, financial markets, and sovereigns, so different, like, you know, independent nations, have become too used to low interest rates and accommodative financial conditions. So when the Fed or something like that tries to fix the situation for you. Also reflected in history, high levels of private and in public debt. Student loans. It will be challenging to transition to what he called more normal levels for rates, and said it will be important to set realistic expectations of what monetary policy can deliver. So currently people think that monetary policy can just fix everything, and that's not true. Again, to my point before where I'm like, yeah, the United States prints out all this money and stuff like that, but when are we going to create more products and deliver more to the world or something like that? Or kind of like the Republican narrative, which they don't actually mean it for this. They're honestly just lobbying for oil most of the time, or whoever the heck's paying them. But it's like, we need to produce more. You know, you need not just oil, but more exports. We stopped the hemp industry when that was our biggest export in the country. And why did we stop it? Because cotton got mad. Because we wanted to appease a few people at the very top and stop anybody else who's coming up, especially if they were a hippie. They were starting to make money. Hell no, you know? But why do we do these stupid things? Because it shoots us in the foot decades later. Let's go further. Carson further stressed that central banks should not be expected to single-handedly ensure global growth by keeping an accommodative stance in all conditions. The BIS boss still pointed out that central banks around the world have been here before, referring to the inflationary period of the 1970s. Exiting the gold standard. Goodbye, gold standard. Goodbye, fiat dollar. Which just means let there be light. Karstens also said the inflation has now accelerated in the service sector. So yeah, obviously people are starting to feel that. As a result, inflation may become more entrenched than previously anticipated, Carson said. So these are the people that are governing the world's monetary policy, though. This is not just an independent nation or something like that. You know, these are people looking out for everyone, and it is more than they had anticipated and might become entrenched. Okay, it ain't going nowhere. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? This is not financial advice, not financial advisor, but this is coming from the horse's mouth. Carson pointed to 3 developments that he said led him to believe inflation has become more persistent than what was previously believed. There are signs of inflation expectations and partially short-term expectations are becoming unmoored, which means that they're becoming unrealistic. There are signs of inflation expectations being unrealistic, particularly short-term expectations being unrealistic. So people are being unrealistic, is what he's saying for point 1. The link between relative price changes and inflation, which characterized the prior low inflation era, may be shifting. And 3, as inflation affects the cost of living in countries, this will take center stage in price and wage setting decisions. This could trigger a dangerous wage price spiral. That sounds good, right? No, it doesn't really sound good, but it's just better to be prepared and actually read these type of things, because guess what they're not going to tell you on Fox News while they bring up more of Hunter Biden's laptop and this and that. They're not going to tell you anything about this. If anything, they're going to talk about oil and how we should get the Keystone Pipeline going again. The Keystone Pipeline is still running. Do your own research. It's still running. We do not have the XL leg of the Keystone Pipeline going, but they're lobbying for that because why wouldn't they? They're probably being paid. As it began to rise, forecasters were revised. And sorry about the noise in the background. Dogs go crazy sometimes. As it began to rise, forecasters were revised up. But even mid-year, most observers projected only a modest and temporary overshoot of central bank targets. In the end, inflation far exceeded the forecasts, the head of the BIS said. So, what did we learn today? We learned that a lot of things are changing. We learned that a lot of these regulators and governing bodies are waking up to what's actually happening, what people in cryptocurrency have been saying and seeing for a long time, because most of them rely on charts and analytics to make these decisions, and math, not just emotions, not being paid and lobbied to by somebody else, but straight up math. And so, I don't know. My opinions, though, I just like to know about this type of stuff. I like to pay attention as much as possible, to learn as much as possible. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just reading the articles and reading things that people have said. So what do you think about this? Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know beneath this post, and we'll see you in the next one. Deuce.